Last week I did a video on cheap cars that look expensive, and this week I'm doing the exact opposite thanks to your guys' suggestion: expensive cars that look cheap. Looking cheap isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think that these 5 cars do not look as expensive as their price tags. Typically I do my videos about facts, but today there'll be a lot of opinion because it's an opinion based piece. Cars looking cheap is an opinion thing. Some people think they look expensive, some will think they look cheap. So what I'm saying is, don't get too offended by my opinions. You're welcome to disagree with me. If you like this kind of video and want to see more like it, do hit like and subscribe as well if you're new here. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Now remember, this video is almost entirely about my opinion, so please don't be offended if I say your expensive car looks cheap, especially as we're starting off with a legendary car, the Jeep Wrangler, specifically the newest 4th generation. It follows a long line of Wranglers that have been around since 1986 and is a pretty popular car, particularly in the US, and has become a bit of an icon in some circles. It's a cult classic, if you will, and the 4th generation offers the most modern and up-to-date version of the car, staying true to its roots in many ways through the way it looks aesthetically. It's also equipped with a strong powertrain, a 2-litre inline-4 turbocharged in with a mild hybrid setup that produces 268 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.1 seconds. But this all reminds me of another far cheaper little icon, but we'll get onto that in a second. If you want to buy a Wrangler new, you're looking at spending £61,000 base, and I spec'd one to just under £65,000 with all the stuff I wanted on it. That is a shed load of cash for a car that is kind of cool, kind of unique, but not really the most inspiring SUV of all time for us here in the UK. What's particularly mad about this is that you can get 4th gen examples from 2019 with low mileage starting anywhere from around £35,000, meaning in 4 years the car's dropped by almost half. And then when you consider that to the untrained eye, previous generations of the Wrangler don't look that different, particularly the 3rd generation, which you can get for less than £15,000, it really is hard to imagine you'd be spending 4 times that amount for a new one today. Now I'm sure the Wrangler fans of you will disagree with what I've said so far, and let me reassure you, I don't dislike the Wrangler, but for me, the cult classic 4x4 I'd have, which is still quite expensive considering what it is, but costs a little over a third of the Wrangler, is a Suzuki Jimny. £22,000 will get you a brand new one, and they're pretty good at holding value too, given their popularity, and they have a long, rich history with a huge cult following, and it's pretty decent off-road too. Of course, they aren't entirely comparable cars, but hopefully you get the idea. I need to talk about a much older car now that was incredibly pricey on release all the way back in 2002 and is becoming a very hard to find classic today, the VW Phaeton W12. Now yes, I've included the Phaeton in multiple videos, typically in one of its diesel specs, but the W12 is the most aggressively engined version of the car that really showed the insane levels of luxury that VW could produce when they put their mind to it. I really do like the Phaeton. It's a lovely car with a top speed of 186 miles per hour without a limiter and some of the most technologically advanced features of any car of its time, including perfect climate control, adaptive air suspension with continuous damping control, radar adaptive cruise control, and an actual computer on board which you can use with internet, which was sublime for 2002. When you then add on that insane engine, a 6-litre W12 block that produces 443 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.9 seconds, it really is a cool car and not bad for what is effectively a luxury limousine. I've only said nice things about the Phaeton so far, but please note I haven't yet mentioned how it looks, and that's because in reality it looks like an oversized VW Passat. You might get a second look in one of these by someone who knows about the car and the W12 block, but in general the VW badge and the overall unassuming stylings make a car that does not look anywhere near as expensive as it was on release. Back in 2002, adjusted for inflation, these were around £120,000, which is an absolutely unbelievable amount of money to spend on a VW if you want a car that looks as expensive as it is. That's more than many of its competitors today, and at the time it wasn't a million miles away from its more expensive older brother, the Bentley Continental Flying Spur, that shares the same platform and engine, just with a couple of turbochargers attached. For that reason, the W12 can now be had for under £20,000, but it does only very rarely become available, as people like us who love cars have been buying them up as collector's cars, so if you want one, you'd better be quick before they end up being incredibly expensive again, as car enthusiasts are already beginning to drool over them at car shows. When the DS brand was pulled out of Citroën to be the more premium executive brand in 2015, the intention was for the cars to be as luxurious as possible both in design and quality, while maintaining a reasonable price to compete against many rivals that are well established in this place. It's definitely an admirable and very difficult task, especially given who those rivals are, like BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Jaguar, Lexus and the likes. So why then is the DS9 Luxury Saloon a £60,000 car in on-the-road prices? Yes, it looks a bit more fiddly than a Citroën, but if it wants to compete with a £42,000 BMW 5 Series, the £40,000 Audi A6, the £48,000 Mercedes E-Class, the £35,000 Jaguar XF, and the £38,000 Jaguar ES, how in the world is it priced so high? Sorry, I am ranting at this point and I'm not going to stop. The DS9 is heavily related to the Peugeot 508, as in they share the same platform, many parts, engine options and the likes, and the 508 starts at around £30,000. In its most aggressive PSE spec, which by the way I'm a huge fan of, it's about the same price as the DS9, and is a way better looking car and far better overall offering in my opinion, and reviews have still said it's a bit rich for a quick Peugeot. So how in the world can they possibly charge this much to compete in this market? Maybe I'm an idiot, so please let me know in the comments if you disagree with me or you're saying something that I'm missing. I did say there would be a lot more opinion than usual in this video, so at least I'm sticking to my promise, but I'm going back to the facts, and the DS9 comes with a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine with hybrid electric power too, giving a combined 354 brake horsepower in its most aggressive spec, which you get to 60 in 4.9 seconds, which genuinely isn't bad at all from a performance perspective. And I don't think the car looks bad at all. In fact, the interior in particular looks like a great place to be, and the reviews have been really positive about material quality and the likes. But the exterior is still a bit of a safe bet, and without the established luxury badge to entice people to buy it, I'm bemused by that price tag. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you are, a quick reminder to hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new here. But what I actually wanted from you is to let me know in the comments down below what expensive cars you think look cheap. At any price range, I don't care, just an expensive car that you don't think looks as expensive as it is. Let me know in the comments down below. We have another VW gracing the list, and it feels like a bit of an easy target, but the cancelled VW Touareg R had such a high price tag from a car that comes from a non-luxury manufacturer, and a car that sits on the same platform as far more premium offerings, at least by badge. Do not get me wrong, the Touareg R is a great looking SUV, and that's coming from someone who doesn't even like SUVs that much. The nice aggressive lines, the huge vents and massive alloys, the sportier interior, and the actually very good capability make you know for sure it's a premium car. Add on the incredible fact that the Touareg R is the most powerful production car VW has made so far, and it really is a properly cool car. That power comes from a 3-litre turbocharged V6 engine with hybrid electric power too, which puts 455 brake horsepower out total, taking it to 60 in 4.9 seconds, again not bad for a car of its size. So I've been very kind about this SUV so far, and SUVs in the right specs often look expensive, so why do I think this car looks cheaper than it is? Well, in 2022, its second year of production here in the UK, it was cancelled due to incredibly low sales. Registrations dropped by 50% from 2021 to 2022 as the Touareg as a whole struggled, not just the R, but it certainly didn't help that this car ended up being a £77,000 in on-the-road prices. Now remember, it sits on the same platform as the £64,000 Porsche Cayenne, the £80,000 Audi SQ7 and the £68,000 Audi Q8, all three of which come with incredibly cool spec options, like the more premium materials in the Cayenne, more practicality in the Q8, and more performance in the SQ7 with that twin-turbo 4-litre V8. It therefore becomes very difficult to understand why you'd buy a VW for similar or more money. I think what really drives this home for me too is who the R brand is for. People who want to have fun, go fast, and enjoy a bunch of power by Rs, particularly of course the very popular Golf R. It's like a modern day Escort Cosworth or that kind of thing, something that is reasonably priced but still very fast. It doesn't scream expensive. The Touareg feels like a car for people who haven't let go of owning something like a Golf R, but I feel like by the time you're into family cars, you want something with a little bit more class, but I may be overgeneralizing when I say that. Prices from £125,000 to pre-order the Tesla Model S Plaid. I could probably end this section of the video here, but I won't, I'll keep going. Is the Model S Plaid a fast car? Yes. Does it accelerate ridiculously quickly? Yes. Does it look at least a bit premium? Yes. Does it look like £125,000 worth of a car? Not a chance. For that kind of money, if you bought used, you could get yourself a Lamborghini Gallardo, almost a McLaren 600 LT amongst many other McLarens, a Mercedes AMG GTR or even an SLS, a Ferrari 458, an absolutely top spec carbon black Audi R8 V10 Plus, a Porsche 911 991 GT3, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, and a bunch of other ridiculous cars for that money, which definitely do look expensive. In comparison, you can get a second-hand Tesla Model S that will pretty much look exactly the same as the Plaid, at least to my eyes, minus the extra fiddly bits, for under £25,000. I mean, you could even get a Ludicrous for less than half the price of the Plaid, which will still give you, as is in the name, a ludicrous level of performance. And let's put some respect on the Plaid's name for a moment. It has 3 electric motors which put out a combined 1020 brake horsepower, which you get to 60 in 2 or even less than 2 seconds. Absolutely mesmerising. I've driven the Porsche 992 Turbo S and done quite a few launches, and that does 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds, which feels mind-bendingly quick, so I can only begin to imagine how fast a sub 2 seconds launch feels. But at the same time, as I said, the exterior is nothing special. There have been ongoing questions about the build quality and the finish of Tesla for quite a long time, and the best description I've ever heard about the interior came from one of my subscribers who said it looks a little bit like an unfurnished flat. I'm a massive fan of the technology, though I'm not a huge fan of the massive screen, and I know that's just a preference thing, but when it comes to screens like that, I'm a big fan of less is more, and the materials just don't feel as premium as an equivalent from Porsche, for example. So again, a cool car, very fast, but it does look far cheaper than most things in the £125,000 region. And so brings to a close this video. Do you agree or disagree with my picks? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what car you believe looks way cheaper than it actually is. But before you go anywhere, you should definitely go and check out this video up here to show you a bunch of cars that for the same price as that Tesla Model S Plaid you can get, and they are way cooler.